Yo,
Yo, bro.
right. So this morning we're going to talk about community. Now, it's something that you and I have been, really talking about for quite a while, and I think now we're here to. We're actually setting up our own community as well, the Hacker Collective, right? Maybe do you want to give your take on what you think community is? Because community is such a big fluff word, right, all the time.
Community is something that gets people rallying around something, right? If there's no community, if it's just a group of people eating McDonald's, is that community, right? Maybe you could argue
They're eating
that
McDonald's together. They
maybe-
like McDonald's, right?
yeah,
They're
maybe
doing
you could-
something together.
yeah, maybe you could say that's a community, right? But you
Yeah.
have to. It can't just be just a brand. There has to be a message behind or a vision behind why are people gathering together. If you think Christianity, if you think BNI groups, right? If you think or even just talk about cult groups, right? People just come together and like go all crazy, like funnel hackers. People build funnels for a living. They just enjoy being in the present, and they'll pay crazy, stupid amount of money to just go and hear someone they respect talk. And that's what it means to be in a community, because the sense of belonging.
Do you believe that people need to pay to join a community? What happens if a community is 100% is paid, 100% is free? What would be the difference, right?
That's a good question. That's one thing that we think about a lot as well, right? Because if something is free, right, people will just we won't be able to dedicate our time properly to those who are serious. It's hard. So money in many ways is a form of a filter.
Yeah.
It filters out people who are serious, filters out people who are truly passionate, and people who are willing to go the extra mile. Yeah, of course you can say things like, oh, but what if someone just cannot afford it, right? I'm like, okay, cool, that would be the small minority, but 95% of people can afford $20 per month.
Yeah.
If they really want, they're really into something.
No, I think that's where we end up saying that. And I think, why not have both, right? A free tier and a paid tier of a community, right? So you have people who, of course, ultimately there are people who want to give it a try first, and then they convert into the paid community,
that's true.
right? Because people need to feel like they belong in the community.
That's true, yeah.
Then from there you get the paid tier. So actually, as we are even doing this community thing right now, right? What would you say is what do people do in a community? That's the thing, right? Like, how do you know what can people do? My thoughts is always people should come together to try and do something, and it's directed. So must a community be directed and organized, or actually is it no? Let it go with the flow, let it evolve on its own, or should it be organized, right? And if so, how?
If the thing is, without an organized, I feel, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel communities should be organized, because if they're not organized, right, you just don't know. I mean, yeah, it will. Many things can happen, and people might spread the message wrongly, or you don't go with your initial plan that you had in mind.
No, so what I was thinking, even when you along those lines, was that the community needs to have the original vision always very strong. Once the original vision is strong, right, the activities around it will evolve around the original vision. Once you have the thing strong, let it evolve on its own, but around that core vision.
So there has to be like different boundaries, different rules set in place for people to work and be creative along those rules, right?
Yes.
Imagine if you didn't have, it was a blank sheet of paper and you let people dictate the rules, right? Then in a way,
no rules, they just do whatever they want, right?
yeah, I mean they could do whatever they want, but to get people excited about something, there's always boundaries. There's always boundaries, there's always rules, right?
I wouldn't say maybe not even rules per se, but goals. A clear goal, and then people
a clear objective,
and they can do whatever they want as long as they're hitting towards objective and hitting towards their goal.
If you could simplify it, right, community into one or two things, what would it be? I mean, what are the one or two high level things that people want before they take the money out and pay you?
It's simple, right? You need goal, and you need people. A person with a very strong goal, but no people in that community, it's not a community, right? So it's a group of people with a common goal together, achieving it together, doing it together. It's the thing, right? So that's to me my definition of community. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, right? There has to be a central goal, something like a Bible, right? Something like a Bible,
Yeah.
then for people to follow it and start mini communities around it, right? If we go back to the topic of paying or the freemium model, right? Can we think of some examples of people doing this? The free,
models.
yeah. So if I think of when I think of communities, would you say like when you're in high school, there's a Boy Scout, right?
Yeah.
Boys Brigade,
Yeah.
right? That kind of stuff. Would you say that would you see people identify to that as part of that
You
community?
have a group of people doing achieving a goal together, which maybe earn the badges or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
and they're working towards it together. That's it.
That's it, right? So
Christianity is what? Going to heaven or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Or worshipping God, or, you know what I mean?
people going to it together because the rules are set in place. You follow it. You can do your little cell groups out of it. You know how Christians, they do cell groups, right? You have different cell groups and you can have different events based on different churches, and you might have different branches of beliefs, but the core is fundamental, which is
Their
whatever they
belief
believe
in God or whatever
Yeah,
it is, right?
yeah.
In that case.
So that's
Yeah.
their belief, right? And there has to be something like that centrally, just tying people down to that core belief and then growing along with it.
Can there be a community where people have well, you said that if as long as people have a very strong vision and same goal, when they come together, they can always do stuff together. Is there an example where it can fail?
No, I think that if you have a visionary in place just there together with them in the room, it's not going to fail. It's just not going to grow.
How you define
Let-
community
no,
and fail, right?
Fail means when you say community, it has to be big, right? Maybe let's look at the definition of community.
No
Is there a
lah,
number to
50
define
people, 100
community?
people, it's okay, it doesn't matter.
A human's cap, right? I think I read somewhere. A human's cap for how many people they can engage with at one point in time or in their entire life, right? Probably 500. Or even less, 150. I read this from the book Sapiens, right?
You don't have to engage with all the same 150 people all the time.
No, you're right. But Sapiens was talking in this book. They were talking about how did we evolve to beat out other human species, because we're Homo sapiens, right? And there's
Yeah.
other Homo erectus, Homo
Yeah.
neanderthals, right? You have all these other species. How did we defeat them? And I think one thing that he talked about was the ability for us to imagine things, the ability for us to work together in bigger groups, share information, talk, right?
Yes.
Then this allowed us to organize ourselves. For example, us right now, I can talk to someone in Australia
Yeah.
or in US almost immediately, and then we can collaborate almost immediately. We can work on projects almost
Yeah.
immediately, right?
Yeah.
If we're passionate about something, for example, let's just use Christianity as an example, right? I could connect them immediately on that central basis, and now we are a team already.
Yeah.
And that's how communities are formed, and that's how communities shaped us to what we are today. That's why I believe communities are very important. In fact, they're the stepping stone to humanity, to our civilization.
Oh yeah, no, of course. I think now also moving on towards the topic of like digital communities, right? Something that I always think a lot. Okay, you have a group of people who are excited and have a shared goal, right?
Yeah.
Let's say they want to be an entrepreneur. They all have this same goal, to be an entrepreneur, all to be successful in business, right? So they come together. I mean, what are activities that people can do together? I mean, and let's just say not even that specific example, but let's just say people love hamburgers, they come together. How will you define the activities of what a community can do at the basic level, right?
At a very basic level, right? They have to meet up. They have to see each other. They have to be able to talk, share ideas with each other.
They do stuff together, which is they buy crypto. A stock market group comes together, they discuss, they share ideas, then they buy stocks. Can you imagine a stock market community that comes together, network and share ideas, but they don't buy stocks?
Right.
I would say a lot of times there are, I can give an example, in fact, where it's, sometimes we meet up together as a group, right? They go back home, they learn knowledge, and they do their own stuff. But when you do stuff as a community, there's sort of property communities. They meet up, they do stuff together, and they buy properties together.
Yeah.
And therefore they get synergies, right? So when you have people doing stuff together, you get synergies.
I completely agree with that. Yeah. So it's always better doing things with a group of people who are like-minded, a group of people who are in it together with you for the long run,
But here's the
share the
thing.
same. Yeah.
Here's the biggest problem in community. I find it's hard to achieve this. How do you gain trust of strangers, especially regarding new strangers coming to this community all the time, right? how do you make sure everyone trusts each other and therefore people are willing to do stuff together, network, share ideas? What's the key? You know what I mean?
Would you say that people don't need to trust each other? They just have to trust the persons who started the community or the message that people are rallying around with. For example, if I say the earth is flat,
Yeah.
right? I don't need to trust another person who believes in this vision. I just have to pitch why my backing behind saying why the earth is flat. And if someone else believes in me, good, I like him already, right? That's an example. I don't believe for
No,
the
so
earth
then
is
they
flat.
trust that person because they believe in it, so they trust him.
Yeah,
or
that's
something
it.
like that.
But I don't need to believe in the initial guy, the founder. I mean, the founder says tomorrow he says that the sun is rectangle. I don't have to believe in that.
Yeah.
I have to, but he convinced me in the fact that the earth is flat. So
So you're saying that people can talk, people can in a community can actually don't trust each other or don't even know each other, and they can still share ideas together.
Yeah. As long as the central vision is aligned. I believe that startups shouldn't raise funding.
They believe in they have a central goal. Okay, I want to be able to become a dentist. That's a central goal. Everybody has a central goal, and yes, that brings them together already. But if everyone is still strangers, I feel that people will hold back a lot of things. They will not say too much. We go to BNI groups or you go to these business groups a lot of times. When you go in there, you see a bunch of strangers, right? You are cautious about sharing about your personal life and all these kind of things.
That's why they made a conscious effort to split people into breakout rooms all the time.
Yes.
Right, and that's why to bond first, in fact, even don't talk about BNI, talk about ourselves, our own community, right? When we have a group of students, 20 people, people just don't talk. In a group of 20 people, video call, no one talks except for that one rare smart guy, right? The one rare motivated guy. Everyone else, every regular Joe will just not talk. But the thing is, once you split them up into different breakout rooms, people start talking. A small group of 3 to 5, people start feeling more comfortable because they feel like they are not being judged. Am I too stupid to be asking this question? Or am I a show off if I answer this question? Right? People have a lot of thoughts, and when you drill it down, and when once people get to know each other on a personal level, then they know that this guy is just a nice guy. He's just like me, right? Let me be more of myself.
So I think, and then this concept of groups, breaking people up into small groups, and then I always think of the idea of cell groups, even in church or even in religious groups, right, where you have small groups and you meet this small group consistently. Therefore, you have to build trust. To trust someone, you have to meet them over time. It just takes time, right? And so when they do that, they gain trust in that small group. And then, of course, you have your bigger groups that comprise of multiple cells coming together. I believe in that concept, right? Because that's the concept that's worked in church for many, many years, right? And I'm sure worked in many other religious groups as well.
Only worked in church because they had a very, very strong visionary, Jesus, and they had a very strong Bible, very strong framework for people to follow.
I think fundamentally, it doesn't matter what it is. It can be NFT, it can be stock marketing, whatever. You have a big group of 10,000 people. You're not going to everyone. You're going to have your local Malaysian chapter where you're going to have 50 people, 100 people, and you can have smaller groups from there discussing on a weekly basis, right? That's how you trust someone, right? I see this in business groups all the time, right? BNI, Vistage, EO, where they have small groups and they meet up regularly. And that's where they build
Rotaract
trust.
Club, Toastmasters.
Toastmasters.
All these organizations,
they have small groups.
Smaller groups all over your Rotaract, Subang, PJ. Kapong, right?
That's how you build that connection with people.
If not, you could just argue, why not just have one central Rotary group for everyone to join, right? They could have done that, but
it's not practical, or you cannot build trust. That's the idea.
That's the idea, right? Yeah.
Is there any biggest challenge to community? If you think, what's the biggest challenge?
How do you sustain the community?
Sustaining means, I think, getting people excited to be part of the community, getting people engaged in the community all the time, right? I think for me, honestly, the only way people get engaged in a community consistently, if the community doesn't get stale. Can you give an example, right? Some guy joins a community about startups. Okay, he learned a lot, he moved on into startups, right? What's the motivation for that person to continuously engage in the community still? Is it just talking? Because talking is just very informal, right? I think you have to do things together. When you actually make stuff happen and you guys come together.
But that's the thing. This guy is now running a full-ass business. He's so busy now. How is he gonna? Hey guys, I really have no time. Maybe yes, I can give back. I can give talks once a week. But if you ask me to do stuff with you guys, do challenges with you guys and all that kind of stuff, I don't have
Depends
the
if
time
those
for
things
that.
actually add value back to the person, right? If a person's an artist and they join the arts community, it's gonna learn a ton from that. It is part of their work even to be involved in a community. Think about it, right? As a startup entrepreneur, is it not my work to discuss about my business, to plan my business, to analyze my business, to do brainstorming for my business? Why can't I do that in a community? Why am I brainstorming by myself or with my small team of 2-3 people? Why can't I brainstorm my business and plan my business with
Brainstorming and planning is good. You need to do it, right? But once it's done, it's done. Well, what else is there to do? I mean, once you're done.
So what else is someone doing for the business? They're finding sales, doing marketing things, always growing, doing new initiatives. Why can't I develop new ideas, running the business of it with a community?
Though when you say do just now, what do you mean by do?
Well, work. I guess maybe community can, when you do stuff together, it can be partnerships with other business. Because fundamentally,
That's not doing. That's basically you're going in there, you're talking, you're networking. There's no doing element, right? Do we need to have a doing element? Because if you look at Toastmasters, there are people doing stuff. There's a sub-committee for every event doing stuff. BNI, there's people doing stuff, doing the social media, doing the...
Oh no, so when you say doing something, it is actually doing something that makes impact. So BNI style is who do we refer to and doing transactions.
Oh yeah,
That's
no,
doing.
those are the objective, right? The central thing that they believe. They measure each other by the number of transactions they've referred. That's BNI, right?
Yeah.
Toastmasters measure each other by the number of presentations they've made, the ratings they've got based on their...
Those are all doing, right?
Their 10 key speeches, they have that thing, right?
Those are all
So,
doing.
yeah, no, that's what they're doing. And then...
So you have to do something. You can't just talk, sit down, and then don't do anything, right? Because when you have a community that stands for something,
they have to do something.
If you're a community of artists, you can just talk about art or you can actually do art.
Okay, so now I'm good already. I'm good.
No, you do it with other people in the community that are equally as good as you, right? The community evolves with the group as well,
Yeah.
right?
And fundamentally, people always believe that there's always space for improvement, right?
And I think ultimately for me is if you have a community that doesn't do anything, is really, as I mentioned just now, impactless community that doesn't actually make any impact. And when a community has no impact, right, its usefulness is very limited to just, I'm here to chat and that's it.
Yeah.
That's the thing when I realized it needs to have things that people can do to as a challenge, right?
So you need to be very clear on your target, your user persona, and then who's joining your thing. Because if you have, like for us, we have a full ass community of students. We also have people, startup people, right? Who is it that we really want to appeal to? Because they are both different demographics. They both do different things.
Figure out your audience.
Yeah, to figure out your audience. You're right.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome.